thought it was just a date, a simple night out with someone new. But for 25-year-old Ashlyn Black, it turned into a nightmare no one could have predicted. Ashlyn Black was a vibrant, kind-hearted young woman from Olten, Utah. She was passionate about helping children with disabilities and dreamed of one day having a family of her own. But on the night of May 23, 2020, everything changed. That evening, Ashlyn met 24-year-old Ethan Hunsaker through the dating app Tinder. The two decided to meet in person and went back to his home. But within hours, that date turned deadly. Hunsaker later called 911 around 3 a.m., reporting that he had killed someone in his home. When police arrived, they found Ashlyn's body. She had been strangled and stabbed multiple times. Hunsaker admitted to the brutal killing, but claimed he had a history of mental illness and told police he had been experiencing homicidal thoughts for days. Despite this, there was no evidence that Ashlyn provoked the attack in any way. In February 2022, Hunsaker pleaded guilty but mentally ill and was sentenced to 15 years to life. He will first undergo treatment at the Utah State Hospital before transferring to prison. Ashlyn's family remembers her as a beautiful soul, outgoing, compassionate, and full of light. Her senseless death shocked the community and brought renewed focus to the dangers of online dating and the need for mental health awareness. He was only 15 years old, a teenager with dreams, friends, and a future. But one text message would lead him straight into a deadly trap, planned by the people he once trusted most. Seath Jackson was a typical 15-year-old from Summerfield, Florida. He loved hanging out with friends, riding four-wheelers, and had big dreams of becoming a UFC fighter. But behind the scenes, drama was building, especially with his ex-girlfriend, 15-year-old Amber Wright. Their breakup had been messy. Jealousy, rumors, and threats were spreading like wildfire on social media. And while Seath believed things were cooling off, a plan was already in motion. On the night of April 17, 2011, Amber texted Seath asking to talk things over and possibly get back together. What Seath didn't know was that he was being lured into a deadly ambush. When Seath arrived at the home of 18-year-old Charlie Ely, he was attacked almost immediately. Michael Bargo, Amber's new boyfriend and the group's ringleader, shot Seath multiple times. He was beaten with wooden boards, dragged to a bathtub, and tortured. Bargo even told the others to break his knees, just to fit Seath's body into a sleeping bag. After the murder, the group burned Seath's body in a backyard fire pit for hours. His ashes were collected in paint buckets and dumped in a limestone quarry. To clean up the crime scene, they used bleach and went on with their lives as if nothing happened. But within just days, the horror would unravel. When investigators began questioning the group, the story came out quickly. One confession led to another. 5 people were arrested. Michael Bargo, the shooter and ringleader, sentenced to death. He remains on Florida's death row. Amber Wright, Seath's ex-girlfriend, who lured him to his death. She was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. Kyle Hooper, Amber's brother, who helped with the beating, also sentenced to life. Justin Soto participated in the attack and burning. Life in prison. Charlie Ely, owner of the home where it happened, initially got life, but her conviction was later reduced, and she was released in 2020. James Havens III, Kyle's stepfather, helped dispose of the remains. He was later sentenced as an accessory after the fact. Seath Jackson was only 15 years old. He didn't deserve what happened to him. No one does. And this story serves as a chilling reminder of how quickly anger and manipulation can spiral into something unthinkable. On October 21, 2009, 9-year-old Elizabeth Olten vanished from her neighborhood in St. Martins, Missouri. She was a sweet, bright child who loved baking, Taylor Swift, and playing with her friends, including one neighbor, Alyssa Bustamante, who was 15 at the time. Just before 6 p.m., Elizabeth left her friend's house expecting to walk home a short distance, but she never arrived. Her mother immediately reported her missing. A massive search mobilized hundreds of volunteers, law enforcement, and eventually the FBI. Investigators used a phone ping to locate Elizabeth's cell phone signal deep in the woods behind her home. Alyssa's 6-year-old sister Emma was questioned and confirmed Elizabeth had gone to play with her and Alyssa. Alarm bells rang. Alyssa had dug a shallow grave in the woods a week before the murder, poorly concealed and hidden under leaves. When Elizabeth arrived, Alyssa lured her further into the forest. There, she strangled Elizabeth, slit her throat, and stabbed her 8 times in the chest, leaving her body in that hastily dug grave. A search of Alyssa's home uncovered troubling social media profiles. She jokingly listed her hobbies as killing people and cutting. Investigators also found a diary entry dated October 21, 2009, where she chillingly wrote, "I just killed someone. I strangled them and slit their throat and stabbed them. Now they're dead. It was amazing. Pretty enjoyable." Alyssa admitted during interrogation that she had wanted to know what it felt like to kill someone. On October 23rd, Alyssa led police to Elizabeth's body and was immediately arrested. Though initially charged with first-degree murder, a judge ruled she'd be tried as an adult. In January 2012, Alyssa accepted a plea deal and pled guilty to second-degree murder and armed criminal action, avoiding the death penalty. In February, she was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole, plus a 30-year sentence served consecutively. Initially, she was eligible for parole in 2024 under Missouri's juvenile justice laws. But Elizabeth's family advocated for stricter rules, leading to new legislation, Senate Bill 754, that retroactively disqualified her from such parole hearings, though the change came too late to affect her hearing. She was still denied parole in 2024. Her next hearing is scheduled for 2029, but even if ruled eligible, she'd still need to serve the full 30-year consecutive sentence, pushing her earliest possible release closer to 2059. This case shattered a community. Elizabeth was a 9-year-old beloved daughter with a future stolen in cold blood. It wasn't caught up in passion or revenge. It was a calculated act committed simply for the thrill. Tristan Beaudette was a 35-year-old research scientist from Irvine, California, devoted father to 2 little girls. On June 22, 2018, he chose Malibu Creek State Park to camp with them. Of course, what began as an ordinary family outing took a horrifying turn. Just before dawn, somewhere in the dark, a single bullet shattered the peace. Tristan was fatally shot in the head inside his locked tent while his daughters, aged 2 and 4, slept nearby. A nearby camper, his brother-in-law, awoke to loud popping sounds and saw the girls kneeling beside their father in a growing pool of blood. The tragedy wasn't isolated. Authorities uncovered the presence of a suspected serial shooter, dubbed the Malibu Sniper, who had terrorized the area with a series of early morning attacks dating back to November 2016. Dozens reported shots fired at tents, hammock sleepers, and passing vehicles. But despite multiple incidents, the public was largely kept in the dark as the shootings continued. The campground stayed open until the fatal shooting forced its closure until May 2019. In October 2018, police followed boot prints to a ravine to find Anthony Rauda, 46, a survivalist living in the hills, carrying a rifle in his backpack. He was charged with multiple shootings, burglaries, and finally second-degree murder for Tristan's death. Authorities sought first degree, but the jury convicted on the lesser charge, concluding premeditation wasn't proven. Beaudette's daughters were considered victims of attempted murder, though miraculously unharmed. In May 2023, Rauda was found guilty of second-degree murder, 3 counts of attempted murder, and 5 counts of commercial burglary. On June 7th, he received a staggering 119 years to life sentence in state prison for this string of crimes, including the killing of Tristan. This case shook Southern California. It exposed a chilling truth. Domestic camping, a beloved family tradition, was not immune to random, violent danger. Christine Banfield, 37, lived in Herndon, Virginia with her husband, Brendan Banfield, a former IRS agent, and their 4-year-old daughter. She was admired as a pediatric ICU nurse and committed community member. But sometime in mid-2022, Brendan began an extramarital affair with the family's au pair, Juliana Perez Magalhaes, who had moved to the U.S. through a cultural exchange program. Prosecutors later allege Brendan devised a horrifying scheme to kill his wife so he could be with Magalhaes. According to investigators, Brendan created a fake profile, posing as Christine, on a BDSM fetish website. Through that profile, he lured a man named Joseph Ryan to their home, under the pretext of a sexual encounter involving restraints. When February 24, 2023 dawned, Magalhaes called Ryan pretending to be Christine to confirm the rendezvous. Brendan and Juliana initially left their toddler in the basement, then returned together as Ryan was entering the home. Prosecution alleges Brendan shot Ryan in the head and stabbed his wife to death while Magalhaes fired a second shot at Ryan. They then staged the scene to resemble a home invasion and called 911, portraying themselves as innocent parties. Afterwards, Magalhaes called emergency services, reporting Ryan as an intruder who attacked Christine, even as the truth began to unravel. Over the next several months, inconsistencies in the story and forensic digital evidence, like sex messages, phone logs, and trips to a shooting range, pointed to premeditation. By late 2024, Juliana Perez Magalhaes pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter in Joseph Ryan's death in exchange for cooperation in Brendan's trial. Prosecutors alleged Brendan orchestrated everything. She faces up to 10 years in prison, with sentencing scheduled for December 2025. In September 2024, a Fairfax County grand jury indicted Brendan Banfield on multiple counts of aggravated murder in the stabbing of his wife and shooting of Ryan, along with child abuse charges related to the 4-year-old daughter present during the incident. In July 2025, defense attorneys challenged the prosecution's catfish theory, citing internal testimony that Christine's own devices, phone and laptop, were used to communicate with Ryan, not Brendan's accounts. Some detectives who supported this view were reassigned, though authorities say it wasn't punitive. Brendan's trial was rescheduled from February to October 2025 as legal teams prepare their cases. This case reveals a chilling betrayal, a web of deceit spun through manipulated identities and the most intimate storylines. A woman was killed, a daughter traumatized, and a community left searching for answers. Andreen McDonald was born in Port Antonio, Jamaica. Later on, she moved to San Antonio, Texas, and became a multimillionaire by starting businesses in assisted living. She was 29 when, on February 28, 2019, she unexpectedly vanished. Co-owner of Starlight Homes, a loving mother to an autistic daughter, Andreen was admired in her community. The next day, her absence raised alarms. She didn't show up for work, missed the gym. Even her car and purse remained untouched. Family and friends knew she'd never just disappear. Inside her home, investigators discovered alarming clues. Blood and hair on a bathroom light switch, a strange burn pile in the backyard, and a missing key piece of jewelry. A yellow claw hammer with Andreen's blood and DNA was found hidden in a trash bin. Besides that, evidence of tampering, receipts torn up, cleanup supplies, suggested intentional concealment. On July 11, 2019, skeletal remains were discovered in a secluded field in Behar County, scattered alongside cow bones. Despite severe degradation, forensic experts concluded her death was consistent with blunt force trauma, possibly inflicted by a hammer. Charged with first-degree murder, Andreen's husband, Air Force Major Andre McDonald, denied wrongdoing until March 2023. Just days before his trial, he admitted to family that he had killed Andreen in self-defense, admitting to a violent confrontation over her secret business and alleged infidelity. The jury ultimately acquitted him of murder, but found him guilty of manslaughter. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison, plus 5 more years for tampering with evidence. His appeal was denied in August 2024. In March 2024, a civil jury awarded Andreen's family $210 million in wrongful death damages, highlighting unjust enrichment and gross negligence by Andre. Custody of their daughter, Elena, was granted to Andreen's mother and sister. They argued her father's family, given the crime, was an inappropriate environment. This case exposed a chilling chain of betrayal. Behind the facade of success and love lay jealousy, deception, and ultimately murder. Andreen McDonald was a rising star, a mother whose life was ended by those she trusted.